Hey guys, welcome to His and Hers.
Yes.
My name is Twan.
I'm Sim.
Yep, this is my beautiful wife.
Hi, everyone.
And today, guys, we're going to be doing something a little bit different, right? Before we get into it, though, please like this video. Okay, guys? Do the prerequisites, right? Turn on your notification bell, comment, share, right? Subscribe, of course. Please subscribe. Check our channel over at His and Hers YT, right? Today, we wanted to kind of give you guys kind of the backstory of how we first met, kind of how we got together, and, you know, how it's lasted this long.
Yeah.
Right? So, I guess.
I know our viewers wanted to know, and let's,
Yeah, we've been getting some requests in terms of that. And I get
Mm-hmm.
it, guys. You know, you guys want it as obviously advice, and we love, you know, being able to share our information and knowledge, and hopefully that'll give you guys the outcome, positive outcomes, right?
Hopefully.
Yeah, so we met a while ago. I gotta go back deep a little bit now, right? Because it's been a long time since we've known each other. So
When I was 16.
yes, yeah, and we were both still in high school. I was introduced to her by my best friend in high school, right? And so this is a good lesson before we move on: is that social circles, right? Have a good social circle.
Yeah.
Be in a good social circle as far as where and who you want to be, and that'll give you obviously a good outcome, a possibility of finding someone else that's like-minded too, right? So that's one. And so yeah, I went to my buddy's best friend's work, and that's where she was working at the time, and then that's kind of how we got introduced. And like I said, you know, you gotta take the step, the courage. I got the courage to ask her out on a date, right? And she accepted. And so that's kind of how that initial introduction was done, right? And then, I mean, in terms of, I guess, some advice you guys in terms of just, you know, about the truth, about just kind of, you know, keeping to what we always preach here too, is that be honest, right? Like, obviously, I was a young person. My wife, you know, we weren't ready for quote unquote marriage and, you know, obviously kids yet, right? But you have to have that mindset already of that this can lead to that. And I think this comes down to obviously our upbringing, our traditional values that we talk about all the time, because obviously our parents raised us and they lived in a very you know, family unit type traditional household, right? And so you're kind of obviously instilled with this kind of mindset already that if you know you're going to get into a relationship with another person, it's going to lead down to that potential outcome. Right.
To marriage.
And so although we didn't like discuss like the very specifics about it, because we weren't obviously at that point where we knew the specifics, I know I had that mindset in mind, like, hey, if I was going to get serious with this woman, and obviously we're younger than this girl, right, that is going to lead to that potential, you know, outcome, right? And so the topics we would talk about is kind of like, I mean, potential future, right? Like, where do you see yourself in a few years? You know, what is your overall goal?
Well,
like,
I mean, for a young age at 16, we sort of knew, like, what we expect from the other partner. Like, for me, like, even though I was 16, I'm like, well, he's got to, you know, like, what's he going to do with your life? What is this? I don't mess around. If the person I'm going to date is a person I'm going to marry type deal, you know,
I think to quantify the men's
know?
values for both sides is really easy, right? Because you know that you're going to have to make money. You're going to have to be able to support a family. You're not going to say that in the first few dates in terms of like, hey, we're going to have kids and we're going to try to support this, you know, this family and kids. But you kind of know as a man growing up that those are kind of the values that you need to bring to the table, right? And then obviously, you know, I was paying attention, you know, to what she was bringing, which is obviously her personality, the way she's speaking, her ideology, the way she's carrying herself, you know. So obviously she was very feminine. Of course, she was beautiful now as she is then, right? And then, you know, and then she had these traditional values of wanting to be a housewife. She took care of kids. I remember her conversations of taking care of her niece and her nephew, right? And so you can see these basic values coming out in your initial conversations. And so you need to pay attention to those things, right?
Well, I knew I wanted a family, like, because maybe because of my upbringing, like, I've always had a lot of siblings around me, you know, cousins. So like when I grew up, I'm like, I want to be a mom. I want at least 2 to 3 kids,
Yeah.
And then I wouldn't bring anybody on board if they did not agree with me, like, don't want kids, because that's like an X for me, because.
So I think even though it wasn't like clearly stated, because we were still very young, there was still both this mindset. We both knew that, hey, if this was going to get serious, that it has to go towards the truth, right? Which is getting married, having kids, and obviously, and being able to support their kids. That has never changed with me. Like, no. I mean, I've always known that, like, hey, if I was going to go down this path, I had to build myself up to this certain level. Yeah. Now, how long was that gonna take?
We don't know.
I don't know.
I mean, we're young,
at that young, I was too young to really understand like how long that process was gonna take. But that mindset was already there, and so, like I said, having good parents, having a good mentor, it's very helpful, right? And I that's why obviously we talk about all this time in the channel, right? In terms of like how some of the modern women that don't have these contexts is why they can struggle, right?
Yeah.
So from not just our own experience, but I just know from the truth that is a very helpful thing to begin with as a young person, right? And so then moving forward, obviously, I remember, you got to just continue to kind of have that same mind frame and work towards that goal, right? Like, obviously, I try to work harder, put in more hours, worked at my family's businesses, right? Obviously, try to get into more intelligent, go to school. She was doing her thing as well too, right? Going to school,
going to school.
But she was never. I don't ever remember in one moment of my time dating you, honey, that you had this mindset of like, oh, I'm gonna do this because I'm gonna be independent.
No.
I'm gonna do this because I want to be a single lady, and then I can just take care of myself, and no one's gonna, I don't need nobody, right?
I did it because I've always believed in little obstacle achievement goals. Like, I had little goals, like when I was 16 or like when I was 15, like just little goals to
I would say, because I remember the conversation, I would say that your mindset was always like, okay, I'm going to do this to help family, right? Regardless if that was her, her mom and dad, her brother and sister family, or like her thought process of like, hey, my husband and then eventually my kids, right? Does that make sense? Right? So so that was always her mindset, and that has never changed. Does that make sense? Okay. Yeah.
I know.
Yeah. So that's the key, guys, is continue to have that mindset and then talking about it with each other. And then as you are progressing as a young adult to full adulthood and then to a full grown adult, it's like making sure you keep on with that mindset. So we were very fortunate to have the truth from the very beginning.
Yeah.
And that's kind of why our channel, that's the reason why we wanted to start it, is because I think the sooner you learn the truth and the sooner that you realize what the truth is, your outcomes are going to be a lot more positive.
Much better.
Correct. Exactly. And so,
sorry, I'm fiddling with that.
Yeah. And so, in terms of like how we've made it to work this long, it's just honesty, right? So like the truth, that mindset of the truth, right? We talk about in our time video, I always harp back to it, but that T stands for toughness, which is in essence, you realize the truth, the toughness to realize the truth. We were fortunate to realize that at a very young age.
Well, because luckily for our parents, they just instilled certain things. They're always telling me to be honest with yourself. People should love you for who you are. If you want certain things,
your goal is family. They always emphasize
it,
family, right?
Yeah,
and then intelligence, right? We took this long time to gather this obviously knowing competence to gain obviously finance and values in our life, And my wife obviously gathered the intelligence to maintain her female values, she knows that she can't sleep around. She knows that she can't be promiscuous, right? And so she knows that she can't like let her fidelity, like go and have sex with random men. She knows that if she does those things, I'm gonna leave. I'm gonna be like, why would I commit to that?
My dad would kick me out.
Well, exactly.
He'll disown like.
There's that. Yeah.
My dad was very strict. Like the person that you're gonna date, if you introduce him to the family, that's the person you're going to marry.
Yeah.
And your fidelity is like the thing that you're supposed to save.
And
in my family.
And that's
in my family. I don't know about everybody else.
No.
In my family,
no.
For a woman, well, they should be, but for a woman, you're supposed to save that special fidelity for your spouse.
But you
only your spouse, not your boyfriend, not someone you met. I don't care. Even if I supposedly, was going to, like, remember, honey, when we're going to just date, I can't even go public with him, like, that we're officially dating until he came and, in a way, commit.
Yeah.
Propose. Like, we were engaged.
And that's the key. Like, I wanted to say, I didn't want to interrupt my wife because she made a really good point, but the father, this is where the father figure, we always talk about, like, the father is so important. And ladies, modern women, you guys keep on forgetting what the man is also used for. You guys think we're just useful for sex and for money, right? But this is where the father is, so the man in your life is supposed to teach your daughter, is supposed to teach your sons these core values. It was supposed to hold them to this standard, so that way the outcome would be positive for their daughter.
Yeah.
And so that's why a lot of it is lacking, right, guys? So,
well, like my dad always say, your virginity is that special thing that you hold on to. Just because a guy, like, say you're beautiful and want to lavish you things and want to just go on a date, who cares? He's like, so what? But did you walk down the aisle? Is he going to marry you?
Yeah.
No, you need to keep that special virginity just for your husband and only your husband. Like, we don't talk about the birds and the bees, or my dad and mom would be like, doing all, we don't do that. That's something that my parents said you would learn when you get married. You'll cherish that. And if you don't, then, there's information to learn.
Yeah. Well, thanks, guys. Thank you for listening to our
Thank
story. We have so much more, but we want to keep it short as well, guys. So
we don't want to bore you too much.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, let us know if you guys want to hear any other, backstories. We have a lot more to share, and hopefully that will give you guys the positive outcomes that we want to obviously
share
give
with
for you guys. All right.
Thank you.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.